Hi booktube, Aaron here, hope you're doing very well. Today I've got a bit of a book haul for you, or really quite a lot of a book haul. As you might notice, I'm back from my holiday in, well, not in deepest, darkest Peru, but somewhere else beginning with P. We were in Porlock in West Somerset. It's just by the border with Devon, just by Exmoor, and it's by the sea, and it's a lovely part of the country. It's obviously the literary connection. It's near where Samuel Taylor Coleridge was staying, and Wordsworth was in the area for a while. And yeah, we've sort of in the past we've visited there a few times, so we've done a lot of the Coleridge related stuff in the past. However, I've got a lot of books, mainly because as we're going from place to place, a lot of these little communities have their own community bookshops, which help fund things like I think mainly flowers for the hanging baskets, but yeah, lots of really interesting secondhand books, and I've come back with tons because I couldn't really restrain myself this time. So let's jump in, and I'll start with some books for kids. A couple of books that we got for my little one. I'm not sure if she's quite ready for this one yet. She's only a year and a half. This is Adventures in Fern Hollow. We don't have an author for this, no author, but we've got a lovely map on the inside, and it used to belong to Rebecca. So sorry, Rebecca, I've got your book. But yeah, we'll see. It just looks really lovely. So that's something we'll be reading at some point in the future. And this is something that my sister spotted in one of the community bookshops. This is by James Mayhew and Jackie Morris. This is Starlight Sailor, and it's a lovely little picture book about a boy going off in a paper boat on a little adventure, and yeah, it was mainly the illustration style here that led to us picking this up, because I'll enjoy this if no one else does. Another sort of curiosity. This is an important utilitarian book. This is Kawaii: How to Draw Really Cute Animals by Angela Ingwen, and it's how to draw really cute cartoon animals. So something that we'll be needing to do as time goes on. So it's good to have that one in the arsenal. And then another one that's a little bit different compared to normal. This is by brother Victor Anthony de Alvia Latourette, and this is From a Monastery Kitchen. And it's a monastery cookbook, which sounds really cool. And it is mostly, there's the author himself. So penned by a real monk by the looks of things. And it is just, yeah, lots of monastic recipes, and we'll see what it's like. A lot of them quite, as you'd expect, very simple. Many of them, I think most of them, vegetarian or pescatarian. So yeah, we'll start dabbling in that and see how it goes. Next up, one that Jasmine picked up. She didn't want to get tons from the series, but she wanted to sample it, so she wanted to try and find the right one. And it's a Jim, was it Jim Quillarian Feline Whodunit? Is that his name? Let's see on the inside. Anyway, it's the Cat Who Knew a Cardinal by Lillian Jackson Brown, and I think I've heard about these on booktube, and Jasmine had heard about them as well and wanted to pick one up, and that's the one we got. And then one that was recommended to me sort of by Jasmine. This is Driving Over Lemons, An Optimist in Andalusia by Chris Stewart, who had been the drummer in Genesis when they were sort of still kids, when they're still about 17, and then I think years later decided to go off to Andalusia and sort of carve a life for himself there. And so it seems like it's an optimist in Andalusia. I get the impression it wasn't particularly easy for him, but he has that optimism sort of keeping him going. And then a little more firmly into the kind of stuff that I would have just picked up by myself. This next one is a folio that is missing its box, but it looks really cool. It's by Shota Rustavelli. It's translated by Catherine Vivian, and it is The Knight in Panther Skin. And there's the cover, slightly faded there on the spine, but it's a really lovely looking book from the outside. My understanding is that this is a Georgian sort of classic. We've got a map of the Kingdom of Georgia there, and it's full of these lovely illustrations as well. This is from 1977, and we'll see what it's like. I picked this up because I hadn't heard of it, and it looks really interesting. And I don't think I've ever read anything from Georgia, so this one goes out to Jim from Books, Reading and Stuff. This one looks really curious. This is a random little Faber and Faber anthology. This is called In a Dark Time. It's edited by Nicholas Humphrey and Robert J. Lifton, and they're both, I believe they're both psychologists. They're both professional psychologists, and it's essentially they're almost sort of diagnosing or looking to explore the 20th century, or how, I suppose, using the 20th century as a jumping off point, but then delving into literature from all of time, looking at how humanity deals with dark times and with turbulent times. So I thought it seems like a really interesting idea for an anthology, and it's a random mix of stuff, often little snippets. So it's one of those ones where it seems like part of the reading experience is how these snippets from all of literature play with each other and talk with each other, which is what I love in anthologies like that. And then next up, again, something a bit different, but something I was really excited to find. I feel like Fred from Read by Fred has either read something like this or read this exact book. This is Leonardo's Notebooks. So this is edited by H. Anna Sue, and it's just a translation and transcription of his notebooks, along with pictures from inside his notebooks. So I'm really excited to get into this, and it really is. It just looks really, really lovely. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. And my mum, she was telling me that when she was young, going around to her grandmother's house, there was a little spot where she could go around the sofa and pull off a copy of Leonardo's Notebooks, and she used to love leafing through them. So that's going to be, I think, something I'm going to be sharing with her. Next up, we've got a pile of poetry. So if you're not into poetry, please bear with. But I'm excited by a lot of this. First up, a cute little thing that I found. This is a tiny little pamphlet of some of George Herbert's poetry. I've got the Temple. Don't think you can see it. I think it's just above the top of the camera. But I have all of the Temple by George Herbert, but this is just a tiny thing, and it's just got this lovely little image of little Gidding, it's a little transcription of a letter he sent to Nicholas Ferrar, who I believe is an ancestor of T.S. Eliot, if I'm remembering correctly, and that's why Little Gidding, the poem by Eliot, has that name. He's sort of connecting with his past, and yeah, it's just got some of his poems. It doesn't have Easter wings, so all of them are ones that I'm not as familiar with, but I enjoy George Herbert, and so I thought it'd be quite a cute little thing to have around. Next up, a poet that I've not given enough attention to. I think I've been quite cruel to. I've just overlooked, I suppose, and I want to get to know his poetry better, so that if I decide I don't like him, at least I'm deciding that I don't like him because I've given him a fair stab. And this is the selected poetry of Alexander Pope. And I suppose I think a lot of the stuff that people love from him are these long, almost essayistic and very witty poems that he wrote. And I think I've only ever read him in excerpt, in anthologies and things. And so I thought if I was slowly making my way through this selection, I'd hopefully get a fuller idea of what he's doing in these poems, and then hopefully I can be a bit fairer in my assessment of his poetry. So we'll see if that goes, and then if it goes well, I'll move on to Dryden at some point, and see if I can come to a fairer assessment of Dryden. Next up, this is one that I've already started, because I basically finished most of the books I brought with me, with the exception of the Cantos by Ezra Pound, which I'm not going to spend all of my holiday reading, or the same for T.S. Eliot as well. I brought some T.S. Eliot, but I didn't want to just only bring T.S. Eliot. And they're both really big books. I didn't want to be carrying them around on excursions. So I picked up this, and it became one of the books I read over the last couple of days of the holiday. It is Collected Poems and Selected Prose by Charlotte Mew. And this is edited and with an introduction by Val Warner. And again, a poet I've only ever really read in anthologies and things like that. And I felt like I needed to give her a bit more attention, and I was excited to give her a go. On the back it said that, so Siegfried Sassoon, Ezra Pound, Virginia Woolf, Dylan Thomas, and Thomas Hardy all appreciated and enjoyed and were inspired by the poetry of Charlotte Mew. Sort of late Victorian, Edwardian poet and short story writer and essayist, and it's got a short play at the back as well. And I've started sampling it, and it is quite good. I can certainly see why Ezra Pound and why Virginia Woolf would enjoy her poetry for respective reasons. But maybe I'll get a bit more into that once I've finished it, and I'll give you a few more details. Again, a poet that I am terribly underread in, and that is Lord Byron. And I just picked up The Corsair, so one of his fanciful romances, I suppose. And again, we'll see how it goes. A nice little sort of 70-page thing, and a lovely cover on there. Lost my words there. What's that from? Will it tell me, actually? It looks like a detail from something. Let's have a look. Will it tell us? The front cover shows a detail from the death of Sardanapaulos by Eugene Delacroix, and it's in the Louvre. Well, there you go. And you can't see it because of the glare. Next up, and this is the last of the poetry. 3 poetry anthologies that I was really excited to see, and they sort of run in from one to the other in a really satisfying way, and they're all sort of mid-century Penguin anthologies, which I kind of have a bit of a thing about, and I'm slowly growing a bit of a collection of them. So first up, we have got Poetry of the 30s, and this is introduced and edited by Robin Skelton. And I absolutely love this cover. I think it's really, really cool, and it's the same thing on the back. Just really, really lovely. Looking at the inside here, it's mainly W.H. Auden, Louis MacNeice, Cecil Day-Lewis, Stephen Spender, Kenneth Howlett, Rex Warner, over and over again with a few other people. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I know Auden a bit. I've read through his selected poems, and I've read bits and bobs of some of his contemporaries. But I thought it'd be fascinating to just get a picture of them all bouncing off each other, and seeing how they were inspiring each other and commenting on things. And then we've got a book from the Penguin Poets series. This is edited and introduced by David Wright. It's from the Penguin Poets series, and it's the mid-century English poetry from 1940 to 1960. And this, so it's got Auden and Beatman. It's got Graves, MacNeice. It's got Stevie Smith, Vernon Watkins, Donald Davy, Tom Gunn, Ted Hughes, Elizabeth Jennings, Philip Larkin, Christopher Logue. Who else do I know? David Gascoigne, W.S. Graham, Patrick Kavanagh, and Dylan Thomas. So a few favourites, and there's tons more in there that I'm not quite as familiar with. And again, it's poetry from during World War II, and then the sort of generation or two afterwards. Oh, and I just opened it up to Lawrence Durrell, which is great. So that'll be a good one as well. And then the third one, which I'm really, really excited about. This is the new poetry, and this is edited by Al Alvarez, and it's it's got a nice Pollock on the front there, and it's just really, really cool. So he groups it by Americans and then the British, and is that it then? It doesn't go any further afield than that. No, it's just Americans and British. And essentially the Americans are mostly made up of the typical confessional poets that you would think of. And I'm not sure, when did this come out? It came out in the 60s, right? It came out in 1962. And then this one's from 1966. And I have the feeling that if the grouping of the confessional poets hadn't already been neatly made, I think the term had already been coined, but if the grouping of the poets you think of, like Anne Sexton and John Berryman, Robert Lowell, Sylvia Plath, hadn't already been made, then it surely must have been made by this, because literally the Americans are John Berryman, Robert Lowell, Anne Sexton, and Sylvia Plath, and they're right at the beginning. So Sylvia Plath is one of the first poets you're seeing. It came out relatively soon. In fact, the first edition of this would have come out the same year as Ariel, if I'm remembering correctly. And again, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm fairly certain that this anthology did a lot to introduce people to poetry, and it sort of shook up the what I find rather sedate poetry landscape in the time of the movement poets with Larkin and such. That I enjoy Larkin sometimes, but I find him a bit bland, if I'm honest. Whereas, you know, Lowell and Berryman and Plath are much more interesting. And then we've got Norman McCaig and R.S. Thomas, Donald Davy. There is some Larkin in there because I suppose you have to, and some Kingsley Amis. But there's Michael Hamburger. Who else do I know in here? Ian Christian Smith, Tom Gunn, Peter Porter, Ted Hughes, Geoffrey Hill. Again, some of the ones we saw in the last one. John Fuller, Ian Hamilton. And is that it? Or have I? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And a few people I'm not too familiar with the British. And so again, I think it'll be a fun way to read. Just a little, snapshot of a particular time when taste in poetry was changing. And again, it's got an introduction by Al Alvarez, the editor. Then the next four are all by the same author. An author I hadn't really heard of before BookTube and before discovering Victober as an event. And that's Margaret Oliphant, or Mrs. Oliphant as she's also known as. And I picked up 4 of her books, and again, the first one I picked up to have something shorter to read along with Charlotte Mew. And the one I picked up is a bit different to her normal stuff. So this is A Beleaguered City in a lovely old Oxford World Classics edition. And it's got some short stories. So A Beleaguered City is a novel about some supernatural happenings in a provincial French city, and then the other stories are also ghost stories, which weren't usual for her. She was more of a typical Victorian realist, but like Elizabeth Gaskell, she could take a turn to the supernatural, and Dickens, and lots of other people. Henry James also writing ghost stories, so that's what I'm reading at the moment. But I did pick up some of the typical Mrs. Oliphant stuff. So we've got The Doctor's Family and Other Stories, so some more of her short stories, and this includes The Doctor's Family. The title story is what starts off the Carlingford Chronicles, which are the books that she's known for. So that all sort of started off, and it's got a handful of other short stories in there. But then I picked up 2 books in the Carlingford Chronicles. So we've got Salem Chapel in a really lovely old Virago classics. I love this period of Virago, and I picked up a couple of books for my sister. And I've just forgotten the name of the author, but again, from the same period and really lovely. And then this, the Perpetual Cure, the Perpetual Curate. And I don't know much about her at all, but when I saw her books in here, I thought I'd give them a go. And the junk shop where I got them from, they told me they were closing soon, so it would have been my last chance to get anything from there. And so as in they were closing for good, they were, going out of business. Now, if you can believe it, I need to pause the video to get the second stack, because that was just stack number 1. So we'll see how long this whole thing is, so I'll be back in one moment. Okay, I'm back. I've got the second stack of books. It's mainly fiction, this one now, so we're purely in the realm of, or almost purely in the realm of fiction, because we're starting off with Virginia Woolf, and some Virginia Woolf I haven't read, beginning with this lovely edition of A Room of One's Own. So I'm looking forward to reading A Room of One's Own. And I also picked up The Waves, which I've been sort of eyeing up a copy and thinking of getting one for some time. And so there was tons of Virginia Woolf in one of the bookshops I went to, and if you can believe it, by the way this haul has gone, showed a little, just like that much restraint, and decided to choose 2 Virginia Woolfs instead of buying like all 5 or 6 that were there. And so I picked up The Waves as well. So that'll be probably the next novel from her that I read. But I might be cheeky and read A Room of One's Own before then. Next up, we've got Joan Lindsay, and this is Picnic at Hanging Rock, a great Australian classic, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's about some girls who go off to the titular Hanging Rock for a picnic, as you may sorry, as you may have guessed, and some girls go missing, and I can remember watching a TV adaptation of this, and it seemed really odd and quite uncanny and unsettling. But it's really the mood of it that I remember, and so I'm looking forward to getting to know this book. And it's been a book I've been thinking of getting for some time. So when I found a copy, I just picked it up as soon as I could. And then this is a book I find everywhere, and it's always this exact edition. And I think I might try this for Dr. November this year. So a reading event where we buy, I've just bought, but we read espionage fiction. And this is, I think, one of the first, really. This is The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. And yeah, I've been thinking, and it's one of those books that I often pick up and wonder about buying. And I saw like 3 or 4 different copies of this in various places. So eventually I just thought, well, it must be something going on. I must pick one up. So that's what I did. Moving away from espionage, the next one is Racine. This is Phaedra and Other Plays. Never read anything by Racine, but he seems to be picking up stuff from Aeschylus, and I like Aeschylus, so we'll see how he does. Yeah, I've heard good things about Racine. I would like to get to know him a bit better. Next up, just picking up yet another Thomas Hardy to get to eventually. This is Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and yeah, just one of the big ones that I haven't got to yet. So at some point I just need to do a big Thomas Hardy binge, and then just read lots of Jeeves and Wooster or something straight afterwards to cheer myself up again. But I don't know, the sadness is part of what I love about Thomas Hardy. And then we've got Elizabeth Gaskell, North and South, a book that my wife could have sworn that we had, but I was pretty certain that we hadn't, because it's one of those books where I thought, oh yeah, I'll read North and South, and then I go to where Elizabeth Gaskell lives on the shelves and can't find it anywhere. So I'm fairly certain we don't already own this. And either way, we definitely don't have it in a Penguin. So now we do. And actually, I did pay less than $2.50 for that. So that's yeah, quite good. And then I brought up Aeschylus earlier. This is the Oresteia. I already have a different translation, an earlier translation of I think it was the Oresteian trilogy, as it was put then. But this is the Fagles edition, and it's Agamemnon, the Libation Bearers, and the Eumenides. So yeah, looking forward to comparing the 2 translations. But I absolutely loved these the first time through, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know them in that translation. Back to French literature for a bit. Again, one I've just been looking out for a while. This is Candide by Voltaire, and this is translated by John Butt, not really a translator I recognise the name of, but I wanted to get to Candide at some point, so we'll see how that one goes. And then a French writer that I've got another book by, haven't read yet. I think I've read one short story by this writer, but it's Émile Zola, and it's Potluck. And this seems to be, if I'm remembering correctly, it's sort of setting against the lives of the sort of upstairs and downstairs of the sort of upper bourgeois. It's a sort of an apartment building, and you've got the bourgeois people upstairs, and then the servants who live in little tiny cubicles, basically. So we'll see what it's like. I've also got the Lady's Paradise as well, and this is by the translation is by Brian Nelson, who again doesn't ring a bell, but I'm not particularly well read in French classics. Another Oxford now, and we're nearly at the end. We've got 3 more after this, so thank you very much for being so patient. This is, we were in the West Country. We were on Exmoor, which, if you know, is Lorna Doone country, and there are tons of places named after Lorna Doone and sort of named after characters in the book. And I've never read Lorna Doone. I don't have a copy of Lorna Doone, and I found one in a bookshop, and so picked up Lorna Doone by R.D. Blackmore, and we'll see. It's a nice big chunker. I don't know. This seems like a wintry or sort of late autumnal or wintry kind of book, I think. Next up, this was again one where I sort of found multiple copies, but the initial one I found, which did look quite cool, I could tell was just going to fall apart when I started reading it, even though on the outside it looks okay, but the pages were going to come away as soon as I started reading it. So I picked up this one, which is a bit more beaten up on the outside, has a bit of a creepier cover, but I think will do okay. And this is The Complete Saki, his complete short stories. And I've never read anything by Saki, so we'll see what it's like. I mean, it looks quite scary there, but I'm given to understand that his short stories are supposed to be quite funny. So we'll see what it's like. I'll report back at some point. And then 2 more to go. This one is a book that I've already got, but my copy's falling apart, and so I've picked up a slightly more durable copy, and this is The Secret Agent by Joseph Conrad, one of my favourite books, and this is a lovely Norton Critical, and I'm building up a bit more of a Norton Critical edition for books that I know I'm going to be coming back to, or just books that I'm interested in and books that I want to kind of read around. And so they have all of the context and the criticism and lots of further reading and stuff. So it's not the kind of book that I would think of as being one where you'd need all of the critical material around it. You can just read it for itself and it'd be quite entertaining. However, the fact that it does have all of that really, really intrigues me. And so I'm looking forward to, at some point, digging in and seeing what it's all like. And then the last one, and this was quite exciting. Not quite everyone's cup of tea, I don't think, but certainly an author that people on booktube seem to come back to every now and then, and that's H. Rider Haggard. And I got this lovely little bind-up edition of King Solomon's Mines, She, and then Alan Quatermain as well. And this edition, this sort of book club, book club association? Is that what they're called? Let's see if it will tell us. Yeah, the Book Club Association from London my dad has this exact edition as well, so this is the edition I used to flick through when I was a kid, and it just has lovely illustrations. Let's see if we can find the name of the illustrator. They're illustrated by Mark Thomas, and they came out in 1979 and was printed in Czechoslovakia. So there we go. But yeah, just full of lovely, if I can find any, just full of these really cool illustrations. There's the beginning of She there for you. And we do have King Solomon's Mines up there somewhere in a sort of Penguin English Library edition. But I couldn't pass up this edition of the bind up with She and Alan Quatermain as well. So that was really exciting. But that is it. That is the whole book haul. And I don't know if I can do it as Steve Stack because there's more than 30 books in there. But I hope there was at least something in there that you did find interesting. Maybe I will try and pick up all the books after filming and use it as the thumbnail for you, so you can see what the stack looks like. But for now, yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.